Congratulations on being newly listed on the CSE.
Thanks for tuning back into another newly listed on the CSE clip. I'm Anil Mall. I represent the Canadian Securities Exchange, and I am sitting here virtually with Dawson Brisco, who's on the board for Atco Mining Inc. It's listed, I think, last month or the month before on the CSE. Dawson, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Anil. It's great to be here.
Thank you. So let's jump right into it. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and this company?
Sure. I'm the CEO of another publicly traded company, Morian Resources. It's a royalty company. It's focused on bulk commodities. I'm a geologist by way of background. I have about a couple decades experience in the bulk commodity and energy sectors. And with respect to Atco, I'm one of two newly appointed directors. Atco is a Vancouver-based mining company, a junior mining company. It listed its shares on the CSE, I believe, in October. The ticker is ATCM. And I personally came on board about a month after listing. Frankly, the reason I did is because Atco's it's a part of something big in terms of its scope. You know, that this isn't some early stage gold or copper explorer or another lithium startup. You know, this is about the next wave of global energy development. This is about hydrogen. I mean, generally speaking, every great company, at least every great exploration company, starts with a great land package. And Atco has staked some very prospective ground in Western Newfoundland, and has quickly found itself, you know, in the midst of an equivalent gold rush in an area that's quickly becoming known as the East Coast's hydrogen hub.
So why hydrogen?
That's a good question. I think some context is warranted in providing the right answer. The bigger picture is that we talk as a global population in broad strokes about, you know, the global energy transition. There are plans and there are agreements that talk about net zero by 2050. And we're great at making these plans, but we're not doing anything overly meaningful to meet them. I mean, after 20 years of subsidies and aggressive build out, onshore wind and onshore solar now provide just 3% of the world's energy. And the primary issue is that, well, with wind and solar is we just don't have long duration battery storage yet. And so we can't store the wind and we can't store the solar energy for any great length of time. And because the wind and sun are intermittent, as we all know, we're not able to reliably use them as baseload energy supply. And so it comes back to hydrogen. The attractiveness of hydrogen is that it is the energy. It is the storage. So the energy is stored within the hydrogen itself. And so hydrogen is both the storage solution and the energy solution in one. And then, of course, there's a couple catches to this. The first is that to make green hydrogen, you need a green electricity source to fuel the actual process, the electrolysis process, as it's called, which actually splits the hydrogen from the water. And the largest contributor these days to green hydrogen has been offshore wind. If you follow that space like I do, you know, two megawatt turbines would have been impressive 8 years ago. You know, we're now doing 17 megawatt turbines. And so the technology has just made huge strides forward. And this just so happens that Newfoundland has really attractive offshore wind sites, as well as a government that's willing to permit these sites. And then the second catch is that you need to find a way to store the physical hydrogen, store that energy once it's produced. And the solution is salt caverns or salt domes. And it just so happens to be that Western Newfoundland's St. George Basin has great potential for salt domes. And this is where Atco enters the story. You know, I've got this map behind me here. Atco staked a massive amount of prospective ground in the St. George Basin. And when I joined the board of Atco, to put this in perspective, the company had, I believe, about 3,000 hectares of attractive ground. But this morning, Atco announced the acquisition of the Adonis project, which you can see behind me here. And this takes Atco's land position in the basin to just under 20,000 hectares, making it one of the largest landholders in the entire region, which, by the way, is seeing a lot of action, as you can tell from other competing companies, all looking to capitalize on this hydrogen push.
I was going to say, by the looks of the map you've just pointed to, it sounds like there's a lot of competition in this region. Now, is that a good thing?
Good question. I think competition is always a good thing, regardless of what sector you're in. I mean, it's only going to elevate the story. Also, I don't think this is a race where you have just one winner. When you're talking about big subjects like global energy development, we need 1,000 Atcos. The world's energy grows by 2 to 3% every year. We can't produce enough energy to keep pace with that demand. And so, yeah, if hydrogen stands a chance at competing on the global scale, I think we're going to need a lot of these projects. But certainly, what makes this company compelling to me is that its initial footprint is at the center of Canada's fastest moving hydrogen development program. Atco's projects are all located about 50 kilometers southwest of the town of Stephenville. And that's, if you look on Google and you explore Stephenville, you'll quickly find out that it's highly regarded as Canada's next future hydrogen hub. And as testament to that, in August of this year, Stephenville was the meeting site between Prime Minister Trudeau and German Chancellor Scholz, and that led ultimately to the signing of Canada and Germany's Hydrogen Alliance Pact, which very ambitiously targets hydrogen exports, not just development, but exports to Germany by 2025. And so the question becomes, why did these two leaders like Trudeau and Scholz meet in Stephenville with a population of just 7,000 people, located on the far west coast of Newfoundland? And the answer is that it's extremely rare to have such high potential for salt dome storage immediately next to a deep water port, being Stephenville, that's also adjacent to some of the highest wind speeds on the East Coast, coupled with the fact that you have a province that's eager to permit these sites. And so Atco plays a critical role in this mega project coming to fruition. This federally supported energy plan, this solution, will not move forward without the storage sites that Atco is targeting.
Well said. So how much of this hydrogen storage technology exists currently?
Well, I mean, hydrogen's growing role in decarbonization has revitalized interest in the concept, but storing fuel in salt caverns, it's not new. Like, for example, the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve, has long stored emergency backup crude oil in underground salt caverns. I think those are mostly located in the Gulf Coast. And I think they frequently note that the cost of doing so is about 10 times less than above ground tanks. The reserve in the US has about 60 of these enormous caverns, and to put them in perspective, they're about 100 meters in diameter and about 800 meters tall. And in Europe, where you have an energy crisis that's rapidly unfolding, and really since the invasion of Ukraine, but even long before that, the concept is gaining momentum. You've got the European Commission now saying that they expect the share of hydrogen in Europe's energy mix to rise from 2% in 2019 to close to 20% by 2050. And not surprisingly, the leading countries are those where salt caverns are the most present. I think you'll find them in places like Germany or the UK, Ireland, France, and the Netherlands. And so large-scale hydrogen storage facilities, mainly salt caverns, they need to be part of that hydrogen infrastructure.
Got it. Now, you mentioned earlier you're also the CEO of Moraine Resources. Now, what drew you to Atco?
I think it was the simplicity of their program, of their idea. Atco is without a doubt an early mover in a proven salt district and on the doorstep of the next big green energy wave. The simplicity even goes a step further. There's no complicated metallurgy to sort through here, or some other complications that might accompany metals projects. Atco will identify domes that'll be used almost like a utility for hydrogen storage. And the model lends itself to almost like a passive owner type, leasing type model, much like the royalty business that I'm in. And what that means ultimately is low development costs, which is, high upside for shareholders.
So what's next for you and your team?
I think you'll see us continue with our effort to stake additional ground, like was just announced this morning. Atco's proven itself as a very capable acquirer of prospective ground, and in fairly short order. Getting positioned is step number one. And Atco's off to a great start there. I think the second step is the fun part, which is actual exploration work, to delineate the potential salt dome structures. And that's a multi-part process that involves everything from, data compilation of historical records, which is ongoing, to ground-based exploration, geophysics, and then ultimately drilling. But we know we're in a salt dome rich area. And so we're confident of the program ahead of us. This is a right time, right place type of investment. And what Atco offers investors is a low cost entry point to get that early mover type exposure to the fastest growing energy segment globally. And I personally find that proposition pretty exciting.
So where can our viewers and potential investors go to find more information on your team, your projects, and obviously sign up for your upcoming press releases?
AtcoMining.com. It'll have everything they need: video links, updated press releases. It's a regularly maintained website. So AtcoMining.com.
I appreciate your time, Dawson. To everybody watching and listening, you've been watching Dawson Brisco. He's a director at Atco Mining. They trade under the symbol ATCM on the CSE. Dawson, I look forward to hearing from you and your team in the next few months. Again, thanks for your time.
Sure thing. Thanks, Anil.
Cheers.